what were your first steps in making the move to a product manager role? Like how did you start?
I didn't have any background, and that's why my first step was always to learn more about the role. So, something I started learning quickly was talking to more people is the best way to actually learn what the different role looks like.
I want to know, were there any doubts and fears that you had while you were preparing yourself to answer these product manager interviews?
Many, I would say, because as a part of talking to people, I also did go a step ahead and ask some of my real good friends. I was like, hey, I know that, especially people who had made the switch before from software engineer to PM, I was trying to target those people and ask them about their experiences.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Khushbu Sheikh, and welcome to the seventh episode of Tech Exploration Hub. Today we have here with us Aditi Patange, who has made a career transition from a software engineer role to a product manager role. And I'm really excited to have here with us to share her insights and learnings, and specifically in the field of cybersecurity. So, with that said, I will let Aditi give a brief introduction about herself before we move on to the question answer round.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here, Kushbu. It's great to be here and talk to you as well as your lovely audience. So, I'm Aditi, as Kushbu introduced me. I used to be a software engineer at Microsoft for a few years before I transitioned into being a product manager at Microsoft. I've been doing this for a few years, so I'm kind of excited to get into the session and see what Kushbu wants to learn more about.
Thank you so much for that, Aditi. Yes, let's get started. So, can you tell me a little bit about your background as a software engineer and what really sparked your interest in becoming a product manager?
Great question. So, I actually, this kind of goes back when I was in high school, I was always interested in learning more about CS. I started programming in high school, and then eventually I ended up getting a bachelor's in computer engineering. So that all kind of built up into naturally getting into a software engineer role. I had a couple of internships in data science, machine learning, and that's also what I really wanted to as my full-time job. And it was going great until I felt 3 years into a role. I think 3 years is the sweet spot where you figure out, do you like this? Do you not like it? And what parts of your job you love versus hate. So when I was at that point in my career as a software engineer, I felt there's something missing. And that something missing was when I felt my manager always told me that, hey, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. I think intrinsically, my personality is more of a person who questions everything. And I found myself asking my manager more often than not. I was like, but why are we doing this? What's the use of it? Who is going to use it? And what happens if you don't do it? Can you help me understand why is my work important? And there were some times when my manager could answer it, and other times I felt that the answers weren't satisfactory. And then my motivation to work on that given task was getting lower because I didn't understand the reasoning behind it. And at that point, I was also figuring out what should my next career move look like. I spoke to a lot of people, and I learned that product managers' whole job is to keep asking that question of why and try to understand the reasoning behind things and figure out whether something is worth doing or not. And it was so excited me that I was like, okay, you know what? I don't know anything about this field, but I'm going to dive right in to learn more. And it has been working great. So I think it was a really good personality fit for me.
Okay, that's amazing. And I think what I can derive from your response is that you were curious, right? I think curiosity is very important being a product manager because you constantly talk to the customer, understand, get their feedbacks. So I think that curiosity mind is something that is absolutely needed, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think even as product managers, you can always get a top-down directive that, hey, which is more recent these days, we have to do AI. And it's hilarious because I bet you have experienced it in your role as well. PMs
Absolutely.
are constantly in this weird position where now we're getting a top-down narrative that we are going to invest in AI, we have to introduce AI in our products. But do we really have a customer need? is that AI going to solve any real customer problem? Is it going to drive revenue in some way? Is it going to be beneficial to the company? That's something that the PMs have to answer. And I think that curiosity is where we would find answers to these questions. Otherwise, we're just going to do what we hear from a customer, from our leadership, and it's really, then you're not really adding any value. Then you may as well be replaceable. Your engineers can just do what they're told to do.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with you, and very well put together actually. And it's not just, I think, product manager, but in any role in the tech space right now, like everywhere the hype is like, you need to have AI, like, you know, put in AI. Like, I think it's important to understand what's problem your challenge you're trying to solve, instead of just focusing on, introducing the tool or like adding AI into it. So thank you for that. I wanted to know, what were your first steps in making the move to a product manager role? Like, how did you start with?
So I didn't have any background, and that's why my first step was always to learn more about the role. It came down to I started grabbing a few books as everybody does, but also that is so different from how the day-to-day of a product manager looks like. So something I started learning quickly was talking to more people is the best way to actually learn what the different role looks like. I learned that even within my company, there were different teams whose definition and day to day of what a product manager role looks like and what they do was so different that there was no common theme between them. Maybe in some teams, a product manager was doing more marketing work. In other teams, they were more of a technical person who is kind of getting into a technical architect like role, but they're also talking to people, customers. So they have the program manager, product manager title. There are others who are classic TPMs. So and there's others who were actually running profit and loss for a product. So the roles can be very varied based on what your team needs at a given point for a given at a given product's life cycle. You can be at very different stages and the needs could be different. So I think the first step for me was definitely talking to a broad spectrum of PMs who are within my company, outside my company, and learning about what their job looks like, what parts of the job excite me, so that when I actually focus on my interview prep, or when I go through all of the theory that's out there, whether in books or in the PM conferences that we see outside, trying to figure out what parts excite me and what parts do I want to dive deep into to build my expertise. And then also that helps when you're interviewing for PM positions. Then you can be very upfront with your hiring manager that, okay, these are some skills that I would really like to invest in. I want to grow here. And is there scope for this job that we're interviewing to have this? Or what does this position look like? So it actually helps you even ask more informed questions and also make a better decision on whether that job would be a good fit for you if you get accepted.
Okay, I get it. Okay, this is really interesting. So you're saying that talk to more and more people to understand, how different their role is as a product manager, and then try to understand what you are passionate about, or what strength or skills you have to align with that position, right? And then, okay, that's really interesting. Good to know that. When you were, making those move, I want to know, were there any doubts and fears that you had while you were preparing yourself to answer these product manager interviews?
Many, I would say, because as a part of talking to people, I also did go a step ahead and ask some of my real good friends. I was like, hey, I know that, especially people who had made the switch before from software engineer to PM, I was trying to target those people and ask them about their experiences. I remember asking a few of them if they would be okay with me shadowing them for a day. And that was an eye-opening experience. I saw them changing context like every hour. So 1 hour they were talking to marketing, the next hour they're talking to document writers, the next hour we are talking to a customer while they're making the slide deck during the presentation. So it was insane. And the level of different things that I saw them working on, the number of context switches, of how a PM is always behind on something. As a PM, it's so hard to be on top of everything. You're juggling between so many different tasks, and it feels like everything was due yesterday. So it was a really daunting experience. And my fears definitely were trying to figure out if I would actually be able to manage this, if I have the right product mindset yet. Because a big part of actually getting into or cracking the PM interviews, I would say, is being in the right mindset. The books will give you the right answers for questions. They will tell you how to develop a product story. But unless you get into that mindset of, at the very bottom, at the very core, when you think about a PM's job, what is it? It is to generate revenue through whatever resources you're given and to maximize ROI. No book really says that out loud. And I wasn't into that mindset. So for me, my fear was, I'm going to fake it till I make it, but will I be able to do it? Will I be able to demonstrate that mindset that I've just learned very, very recently, show that in practice in a convincing manner? And when I actually do end up with this job, would I be able to juggle? So there was a lot of fears that I had going into it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot that they say like product managers are like the CEOs of the product, and that's kind of a lot of pressure. And I think your response kind of explains why that pressure actually is and why do they say that. So yeah, I totally get it. Because I myself as well work a lot with the product managers, so I know how busy their day-to-day work is and everything. So,
Yeah.
can you like tell me any resources, any specific resources that actually helped you in making the transition, cracking the interview, etc.?
Absolutely. I had my three favorite books. There's the Cracking the PM interview, of course, the classic. Cracking the PM career. It may feel like that's the next step once you get the PM job, but honestly, in my opinion, that's one of the best books that helped me understand a holistic or at least textbook definition of what different PM roles could look like. What would life look like when I become a PM? And it actually helped me get into that product mindset better. It helped me decipher between the actual product, and it talks about the auxiliaries around a product. That's the ancillary product. So you have to think about support, documentation, marketing, sales, partner ecosystem, customer ecosystem, and everything that goes around with the product, not just the product. And that is all what the product manager is responsible for. So those diagrams, the stuff that the book talks, was really, really helpful for me. I read that book cover to cover before my first interview. So that one's a must read. I really like Swipe to Unlock. I think that's a very easy book to kind of very easy for beginner learners to understand how different products work and why certain metrics can be more important. It gives a very brief introduction to frameworks, which I think Decode to Conquer would do a much better job of diving into frameworks and the specific interview questions. But I would say those four, definitely my favorite books. I also attended a lot of conferences. My favorite has to be Product Con, that is hosted by Product School. And I think that they do such a fantastic job of getting industry leaders to come and talk. It's hosted 4 times a year. It's free to attend. So that's an absolutely amazing resource that I think everyone should make the best use of. And talking to people, of course, I had people who had made this switch do in mock interviews with me, and we would talk about, okay, so this was the question that I was asked, or this was the question that I heard. How should I answer it? The classics. What is your favorite product? The product that you're working on today. If you were made the product manager for it tomorrow, what things would you change? What things would you keep? Those are some classic answers that you should absolutely have answers to before you step into your first interview, and practice it with someone who has actually done PM interviews before, and then they would help you kind of fine tune an answer. Because as coming from a software engineering background, my answer sounded like an engineer. and I had to make it. I didn't even have any business background back then. So um, kind of changing that intrinsic bias towards engineering and code to business metrics was difficult. But yes, with practice, everything's possible. So there's a lot of resources. These were some of my favorites.
Wow, that's nice. Thanks for sharing that. Actually, I myself was trying to like make that switch to a product manager role. So I have a friend who made that switch from like a TAM role to a product manager role. And when I reached out to her, the first thing she handed over to me was the cracking the PM interview. She was like, "You need to like read this book because this is a book that helped me crack the interview." And she also told me that when you're answering the interviews, like don't try to hype it. Like don't try
Mm,
to give bookish knowledge. Like show what you know. You know what experience you have, like so that the interviewer knows, okay, you do align with this role or you are capable of doing it, like taking on the responsibilities. That's the some feedback or suggestions that she gave me, and I think that was really helpful. Because we tend to like what do you say, we tend to say a lot of things, but then at the end when you're doing the job, it might not be, you're not capable enough, or you don't
mhm.
have the ability to do it, so it should not turn out to be that way, right? um
Yeah.
yeah. With
And
that,
that's just
yeah,
to
please.
add on to that, I would say at Microsoft, we have this really beautiful concept of a growth mindset. So I think we can just practice it everywhere in our life, not just while you're trying to prepare for your PM interviews, but also just acknowledging that day one as a PM, it's not that you just got your foot into the door, but now you have to actually prove yourself and do this job. So there's a constant learning. They say the first 6 months you're learning, but I would say you just keep learning throughout, because I've been in this role for um quite a long time now, and I still learn something new every day. I'm like, gosh, I didn't know this.
So can you tell me a little bit about like the growth mindset thing that you guys have in Microsoft?
Yeah, it's about this concept where we are trying to go away from being know-it-alls to learn-it-alls. And we want to make sure that there's no question that's a stupid question. All questions are great questions. We and try to have this perspective where in a meeting, if you want to ask a basic question and you think, oh my gosh, this is so basic, I bet everybody in the team knows that if I ask this, it's just going to look so dumb. And more often than not, there's always at least one other person in that room who doesn't know, but who's afraid to ask that question. So we
Agreed.
ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I completely agree. It's always good to clarify your, doubts that you have, because a lot of people would have the same one. So yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. So I could you like tell us how did your background as a software engineer help you with the transition?
For my case, it was somewhat unique, I felt initially, but the more I'm seeing stuff, my colleagues make similar moves around, I think it's more universal, where as long as you are in a software related company or in a tech company, if you have background in some technical role, it could be a software engineer role, it could be an architect role, it could be a solution engineer role. When you make that move into PM, yes, you're going into a much more business oriented role, but you will always have groundings in the product realities, in the functionality in your code. So that really helps you set the right expectations. You're not trying to build a rocket in one day that weighs 1 gram. At that point, you're actually putting out more realistic goals. You are more in sync with your engineering teams. And for me, that has actually helped build trust with my developer teams, with my engineering teams, because they know that I come from a similar background. And I'm not some business person just giving them requirements in an unrealistic way. So one of the things I think a lot of early PM struggle with is building a trust relationship with your engineering managers and with your engineers. It is hard. It is hard because at that point, PMs are supposed to lead by influence, nobody reports to PM, so they don't have any authority. They're supposed to influence people around. And in order to influence someone, you need to build trust. With that software engineering background, it becomes much easier to build trust. And that kind of helps you succeed in your role going forward. That has been my observation, and I think that's how it has worked out so far.
That's so nice. Good to know that. Thank you so much for that. Could you also like tell me what does your day-to-day look like as a product manager in cybersecurity field?
Cybersecurity is interesting because as of this year, cybercrime has become a $10 trillion industry. So if cybercrime were just a nation by itself, it would be the third largest nation in the world. So, given the scope of how big this industry is, with AI, things are also always becoming complex day by day. It's not just that the good people have AI, also, the hackers have AI now. So, the level of sophistication in the threat attacks that we see coming up since AI has become a common space have grown exponentially. They're not simple attacks anymore, they're complex, they're able to scale faster. So every day, it's always an arms race between the good guys and the bad guys. Everyone's trying to get one step ahead of the other. And this race will continue forever, but AI is just becoming faster. Um, so my day to day is definitely making sure that nothing has gone on fire since I last logged off. And it, anything can happen overnight. So it's really making sure that nothing has gone on fire. It's getting in touch with my engineering to see what projects we're working on, how are they going. When things are on fire, making sure that we are able to address it in a timely manner. There's always continuous communication happening between different stakeholders within the company, as well as our external partners and customers, and a lot of industry knowledge, actually. So something that is becoming more and more common space in the cybersecurity industry is standards. So we want to make sure that when at Microsoft, if we are building something, we're not just building it for ourselves or our customers. We will also want to give back. And same, other companies are also doing same. When let's say we come up with a new standard for encrypting data, we want to make sure that it's standardized so that it works for everyone, and we're making it better for all of the industry, for everybody around. We want to make sure that all things that we build are interoperable. So again, that's where standards come in, to make sure that a Apple device is able to communicate with a Windows device, is able to communicate with a Google device. So there's definitely a lot of working with different internal and external stakeholders. Whenever we have new product launches, of course, there's a lot of marketing, sales motions that comes around. At time of a breach, there's a lot of CSS escalation engineers that you talk to have your customer communications in line, address issues. Yeah, every day is so different. I don't think there's like
I know.
one day that looks like the other.
I know I do follow like these content creators of like cybersecurity, and it's like, oh my God, like it just boggles my mind because it's like so many things every day they keep posting. I'm like, it's changing at such a rapid space.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to understand, like, because you were just talking about it, like how do you keep yourself up to date with like cybersecurity, trends and whatever threats are happening out there? How do you keep yourself up to date?
There's definitely a lot of reading. And I think all of the search algorithms have become smart enough to know that I want to know best whenever something happens. I want to know about it. So there's that. And I think also being in the industry, you kind of hear about it internally from your connections before you hear about it posted on some major media site. So I think over time, the network that you built kind of tells you about it. Let's say I am on the client side of a solution. If the server vendors start seeing it on their servers, they're like, hey, we're seeing a lot of DNS requests coming for this malicious domain. And we see that coming from Windows devices. Do you know what is this about? And that's how I hear about it before it comes to the news.
I get it. I'm in like I'm on the post-production support side, so I get it. So, what is the biggest mindset change you had to do from moving from like building the product to managing it?
Oh, one thing that comes to mind, definitely not being told what to do. So, as a software engineer, I always had tasks and deliverables assigned to me. I knew what I was going to do this month. I knew what I was going to do this week. I had to report on that, get my PRs in line, get my bugs in line. But as a PM, I think what was eye-opening on the first day was I went to my manager asking, "What am I supposed to do?" He said, That's up to you to figure out, whatever you want to do." And that was interesting because I think the first few months I started disoriented. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And then went back to all of the homework that I had done about, okay, let's go back to the theory of what PMs do. And then I started talking to people and then kind of building up that muscle. But that mind shift was something that was absolutely needed, where you cannot rely on people to tell you what to do. You have to have that initiative and that forethought of, okay, 5 months from now, I want to do this. I have to launch this product. And in order to do that, you kind of have to build a work back schedule for yourself that in order to do that, I have to start the customer support onboarding now so that those people know what to do. Marketing efforts probably can start next month. I need to have a monetization strategy that I can work on maybe starting tomorrow. Are my engineers in line and do they know what they have to build at what cadence? Do we have customers who are ready to test this out? So there's so much that you have to kind of, it needs to be self-initiated and self-driven. So building a work plan for myself, a work back schedule was something that I definitely had to get into the habit of. It didn't come naturally.
Yeah, interesting. I've heard a lot about that as well. That as a product manager, like you define your own responsibilities at
Mhm.
some point of time. So yeah, that's interesting. I actually wanted to backtrack one of the answer responses that you gave. I had a question in my mind. Like you just mentioned that having that business mindset, right? Like is important. Like as a tech lead as well, I've been told several times that, start thinking from like business perspective, how this problem that you're trying to solve is going to, eventually benefit the business. So,
Mm.
do you have any suggestions for like people on how to get that mindset at first place? Like how do you put yourself in that shoes and start thinking like, if I want to get into a product manager role, do I need to start doing it even before I get into that role, or like get into that role and start, developing that skill?
Um, Definitely, you have to first get into that mindset. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to crack your interviews. So definitely getting into that mindset is important. One key thing that I keep telling myself for practicing that mindset is every time we work at our companies, we know that these are all, most of them are probably for-profit companies. So everything that we do, at least majority of the things that we do aren't for charity. They are done for profit. So every time you are given a task or you're working on some project, just maybe take a minute to pause and ask yourself, how is this moving the bottom line? Why is this project important? If we fail, what does it mean for the company's revenue? What does it mean for company's profitability? If I have to work on this project, how many customers are going to try this out? How big are those customers? How much revenue would they pay me? Is this a paid or a free version? And then accordingly, you can also allocate resources. Maybe and it's not one size fits all. It's not simple. A lot of companies run by a freemium um, model. So they have to make sure that their free subscriptions are also a really good quality. They meet a high bar, they exceed customer expectations so that people feel the need to upgrade to a premium. So it's not always that you can deallocate resources from the free subscription and give it to the premium. But depending on your business model, there may be a lot of tweaks. But at the basic level, if you start asking yourself that question, why would this project or this task be important to my company? How is it going to make money for the company? That would be the first and the easiest step of getting into that mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I experienced. Like I just gave one interview so far, but then that's what I experienced, thinking, having that kind of mindset. So as a product manager, what do you really focus more on? Like, is it the problem that you're focusing on, or is it a solution that you're trying to find? Like, what do you think it is?
Um, I want to say a very, very big time. I spend a big chunk of my time focusing on the problem and trying to really understand the problem. Because if I don't understand the problem, then I'm going to build the wrong solution. Many a times customers would come to our team and be like, hey, I need you to build this feature for me. It sounds very straightforward. They're like, okay, the customer asked for this, I'm going to build this, and it's end of a beautiful story. But more likely than not, if you start asking the question of why, kind of where we started, we're coming a full circle. So PMs are responsible for asking that question why. If you ask your customer, why do you need this feature? You're going to uncover a whole set of new information that will help you realize and help you educate your customer that if you were trying to reduce latency, probably this feature isn't what you needed. You needed something X, Y, and Z, and that would help you actually get to a much better solution. So a very, very deep understanding of the problem, I would say, is
Yeah.
a lot more important because for solution designing, you have your engineers, you have your architects, they're much smarter than you. They know the technicalities ins and out. But if you can give them a very clear, concrete problem, then they're going to do their magic from there onwards.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that because I think sometimes customers also have like unrealistic expectations as well. So I think identifying that is very important. And I think as a product manager, if I'm understanding from your conversation that prioritization is kind of, I think, very important for you, right? Like, how can you also like, in a few words, tell us how do you prioritize? Like, do you prioritize based on a lot of customers reaching out with a specific, feature request or, just tell us something about it.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of frameworks out there in many different books on how to do prioritization. And you can go about that. There, you can have a SWOT analysis. But I think for me and how I have seen it internally play out, it's very, very simple that we have very limited amount of engineering resources and we have unlimited amount of work. So when it comes, there has to be some ruthless prioritization happening there. And more often than not, it is which big customer needs this, how many big customer needs this, and what dollar amount is it adding to. And this is, of course, assuming that we have went through our due diligence of identifying the problem and we have analyzed that this is the right solution. Only after that point, when we are trying to prioritize different solutions, it literally boils down to the number of customers asking for this and how the dollar amount that this would lead into. And then you try to, in your limited resources, maximize the dollar amount that you can get through building those solutions.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Thank you actually for all the advices. This is like so amazing. Like I don't know, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people out there are going to find it very valuable, as well as me. And I just wanted to like wrap it up by a small rapid fire. This is the first time that I'm doing it, but I just felt that it's also important to like understand the audiences, like the guests that I'm having as a personality, like what exactly are you as a personality? So just few questions. um
Okay.
so favorite cybersecurity term that you have, like zero trust, phishing, encryption, what would it be?
Zero trust, obviously. I'm
Yeah,
working on a product right now that's called Zero Trust DNS. So I breathe zero trust.
yeah, I think that's the hype right now, right? Like it's
Yes.
zero trust everywhere. So one thing you miss about being a developer?
Having less meetings.
I agree with that. I totally do. Feature launch or bug fix? What's more exciting for you?
Feature launch. It gives such a big adrenaline rush. uh like every big time we have a feature launch, I'm on my edge the day before, weeks and months after. I'm like, how's the reception going? Are we seeing customers? How's the media perceiving it? Who has said what about it?
Yeah.
And yeah, if we more likely than not, we always have some webinars or blog posts that go around with it. So kind of seeing how many people have read it, the
Yeah.
stats, it's yeah, the adrenaline rush at that point is so real.
It's interesting as well as scary, right? I mean,
Very,
yeah.
very, because one of the things that I've also learned as a product manager that will serve all of the aspiring and current product managers well is that whenever something goes right, as a product manager, it is your responsibility to give all of the credit to your team because they are the ones who did all the work for it. But the day something goes wrong, it is your responsibility because somewhere down the line, as an orchestrator, you're an orchestrator at the end of the day. Somewhere you personally failed in that orchestration journey. So you really want to get a product launch right so that you can pass on the kudos to the team and you don't want it to go wrong because you are going to be put on the spot for that.
Right. Actually, so rightly said. If there was an emoji, I could just put like 100. But yeah, I think I totally do agree with you there. Well said, actually. What is the best career advice that you have ever received?
Um, it was to work smarter, not harder.
Okay. And if you weren't in tech, what do you think you would be doing?
I love dancing. So
Oh,
if I
nice.
weren't in tech, I probably would have been a professional dancer.
Nice. I love dancing too. Maybe we should make a reel sometime.
We totally could.
And are you a morning person or a night owl? What do you prefer?
I could be both on both days, but recently I'm trying to become a morning person, and I have realized if I wake up at 6 a.m., the time between 6 to 10 a.m. is so beautiful. I can
Right.
get some deep work done with minimal interruptions, and it feels beautiful. By noon, I feel like I've achieved so much in a day. So I'm really trying to do more of that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like if you wake up early, you can actually do a lot more than you would do during the other half of the day, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
uh, one skill you're currently learning outside of your work. Anything?
Of course, AI.
Oh yeah.
As for everyone. I think AI is something I and everyone around is probably learning more about it just to be at the top because I truly believe that AI is not going to replace us in our roles, but a person who knows how to work with AI definitely would. So trying to become that person who knows AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it is. Like instead of being scared that AI will take away your job, I think you should start learning
Yeah.
and being that person who knows how AI can, influence your job, right?
Yes.
So, I agree with that. Thank you so much, Aditi. Actually, I always try to keep my calls within 30 minutes, but it was so interesting listening to your, experiences that I just went on asking questions. Thank you so much for coming here. Anything at the end you want to talk, like give advice or anything that you want to end it with, or we're good?
Well, I definitely would like to, since we were talking so much about breaking into the PM role, and given the current job market, it may seem hard, it may seem stressful, but I definitely do want to share a quick note of appreciation for all of the aspiring PMs out there. We're trying to break into this field. Yes, it is hard, but please don't lose hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Keep doing your hard work because it will pay off one day. I promise. You just have to be persistent.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you coming here actually and spending time, taking out time to actually share all these interesting insights that you had. So thank you so much for that. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
Thank you so much, Kushbu. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And of course, I'm always happy to help. So if you want to reach out to me, I would love to talk to all of your podcast watchers as well.